Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be using the Pineapple Delight stamp set from Newton's Nook. This is from their brand new release and they are celebrating 3 years of fun stamps and creativity, and I wasn't able to participate in the blog hop last week, so I thought I would show you guys a project using one of the new stamp sets today. So I'm only going to be doing some stamping on this project today, a little bit of ink blending and some stamping. It's a very simple card, and you could replace any of the images or elements with other things in your stash to create a similar project. The first thing I'm doing is I'm putting the two pineapple pieces together so that I can get the spacing just right on the card. I'm going to be masking off the bottom portion of the card because I want to protect it and make sure that it remains white so that I can put the greeting in that area. Above the masking tape that I've just applied, I'm going to be blending on some Distress ink colors. This is Pumice Stone and Hickory Smoke. I'm starting out with Pumice Stone and I'm blending that up very softly from the edge of that masking tape. And I want to make sure that the color is concentrated more on the very bottom of this area as opposed to the top. I want it to kind of fade into white, and then I can have some images stamped on top. I'll have those pineapples stamped on top. So I started with Pumice Stone and then I moved to Hickory Smoke just to give a little bit more contrast to the very bottom of that area. Then I was able to peel up that masking tape, and you can see a nice clean white area underneath all of that blending. So I'm going to move on to some stamping. I'm going to be embossing the yellow portion of the pineapple, and I want to make sure that that embossing pattern doesn't stick to the Distress inking blending that I've done. So I'm testing it out. I first hit that with my heat tool to help dry the ink, and then I'm just throwing on some embossing powder. You could use any embossing powder to test this. I just used some clear embossing powder, and thankfully it shook right off when I did that. So then I knew I was able to start stamping. I prepped that blended cardstock one more time with my anti-static powder tool, the EK Success powder tool, and then I put the paper inside my mini MISTI tool, and I used this to do all of the stamping. So I inked up that first pineapple piece with some Versamark ink, and then I stamped that twice. I wanted a very good impression of this pineapple so that the embossing powder would stick to every single surface of that image. So I decided to stamp the images twice. And at first I thought I would have the pineapples going off the edge of the cardstock, and that's why I had that piece of cardstock moved away from the edge of the MISTI. But then I realized that 3 pineapples would fit perfectly. So then I stamped the other 2 pineapples around on the sides. I used that first one first because I wanted it to be completely center. So I'm stamping these pineapples one more time to get a really solid impression. And I'm going to move on to the embossing powder, or rather embossing glitter. I'm going to be using some Wow Sierra Sunrise embossing glitter on my project today. And it's this beautiful golden yellow, and it has tons and tons of sparkle to it. So I'm going to sprinkle on all of this embossing powder, make sure that each one of those areas that I've stamped gets a nice generous coating of embossing powder glitter. And then I'll go ahead and go on to the heating of the embossing powder. Now glitter, embossing powder glitter or embossing glitter is a little bit different. You want to make sure that you start heating it from underneath your project. This is because if you go straight onto the front of the embossing glitter, the glitter doesn't have anything to stick to. You need to have that embossing powder start melting first, and then the glitter will stick to the embossing powder. So that's what makes it stick onto your project. So I'm heating from underneath, and I'm making sure that it gets everything. You'll notice that it starts to sparkle and then the color changes just a little bit. That's how you know your embossing glitter is done. Hit the front just to make sure I had got everything. And then to clean up my area, I used, first I funneled in that leftover embossing glitter, and using coffee filters is a great thing for that. I'll have everything I'm using today linked down in the video description or over at my blog. So if you were wondering about any of these items, I'll have it listed. And then use a Swiffer cloth, just kind of like those refills you use for your Swiffer mop. And I cleaned up all that glitter, and I ran that over my project as well, just to catch any glitter that might not be sticking to that embossing powder. I'm now using olive ink from Simon Says Stamp. This stamps are really dark green, but it does dry back quite a bit. This is one of those inks that's formulated to look a little bit splotchy at first, but it dries back to a nice smooth finish. Then used my mini Misty tool once again to stamp the greeting on that white bottom of the card area. And I'm going to be using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is a really great ink for stamping sentiments, especially when they are detailed and have lots of words like this one. It gives a nice, crisp impression. So I'll go ahead and stamp that down, and I only need to stamp it once. Once again, that VersaFine ink is fantastic. So I then took some black glitter paper from American Crafts. So you guys have seen this glitter paper quite a lot recently. I'm just working through the 2 sheets of the black that I have. I love the black glitter paper. Cut off a very small little strip, and then I used some Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere that to that seam where the gray blending met the white. And I'll use my scissors to snip off the extra ends on that glitter strip, just to make sure that it lines up perfectly with the edges of my card. Now I realized those pineapples weren't completely centered, so I took the opportunity to trim down this piece so it's a little bit smaller. The finished size is 4 inches wide by 5 1/4 tall. I did take a little bit off the very top of the card area above the pineapples to get that completely center. Then used my 1/4 inch corner rounder. This is the We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper. And then I prepped my card base. I'm using some Neenah Solar White 110 pound, and it is scored at 5 1/2 to create a top folding card. I used that particular cardstock because the white cardstock I used for the pineapple piece was a Neenah Solar White 80 pound, so I knew these white colors would match. I pressed that down onto the card, and then I'm all finished. I wanted to show you some special video footage of all that sparkle. It's really pretty. This is a rather easy and simple card, but by adding some embossing glitter, it really packs a punch. Hope you guys enjoyed today's card. I will see you guys in the next card video.